Welcome fellow action figure collectors to another episode of Beyond the Cardback. I'm Trooper TK314 and today we're taking a look at the entire Apocalypse wave. That's right guys, today we're taking a look at the entire Marvel Legends Build-A-Figure Apocalypse wave. If this is your first time on my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit that like button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads. But without any further wait, let's go ahead and get into it. First up is Wolverine, and he is #1 in the series. And on the back there is a short description that says razor sharp claws and an incredible accelerated healing ability make Wolverine a nearly unstoppable threat. Here he is guys, out of the package, and this is a excellent Wolverine action figure. I think this was the beginning of the first short mold that they made of him, but this mold has been used several times. It's a great mold and it just fits Wolverine. Accessories he comes with, he does come with 2 fisted hands without the claws in them. For articulation, his head is on a ball joint, so you're able to look up very well, look down, and it also rotates 360 if you want it to. Mine does have a little bit of some damage right there. I don't know if that's just some extra plastic I can scrape off. And there's also kind of like a little bit of a paint defect right there between his eyes, but that's okay. Moving down to his shoulders, they are on a butterfly hinge, and you get some great movement with those, forward and back. I do like the metallic shoulder blades. They are pinned right here, so they kind of move up and down depending on how you want to move the arm. But the arms move out to the side like this, both sides. Of course, you've got the bicep swivel. And then looking at the elbows, you do have double hinged elbows, but that's as much bend as you're going to get on both sides. Moving down to the hands, they are on a hinge, and they hinge out and hinge forward. And of course my claws out of the package are just a little bit warped, so I'm going to take some heat to those to straighten them out, but they look good. Moving down to his torso, he does have a hinge right there. Mine is very, very loose. You barely touch it and he'll just hinge wherever you need to, but that's okay. It still does click at each interval and it kind of holds. And once again, I've got a little bit of a paint defect right there, but that is okay. Moving down to the belt, it is a floating belt and it covers the waist spin, and it spins 360. Looking at the legs, that's as far of a kick out as you're going to get. And of course we've got the thigh swivel on both sides, double knees. Doesn't quite go up all the way, but that's okay. It's still a good range of motion. Looking down at the boots, they are on a swivel, so they can swivel 360. Moving down to the ankles, they're on a hinge, and they have forward facing pin for rocker. Next up is Magneto, and on the back there's a bio that says, living up to his namesake, Magneto is a master manipulator of magnetism, controlling and using its energy to defeat his enemies. Here he is guys, out of the package, and I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised with this figure. The detail is fantastic. It's a cool Magneto, I can't say anything else. He's actually the very first Magneto that I have in my collection, so I'm excited about that as well. Accessory wise, he does come with a alternate head and 2 fist hands. Okay, up close, that face sculpt is absolutely amazing. Look at that, that is wonderful. The head is on a ball hinge, so you are able to look up great and look down, buries the chin. Of course, you want to be the Exorcist, 360. I think I do have a little bit of some paint scuffs right there, some plastic scuffs, but that's okay. Other than that, this figure looks great. The cape is actually pegged in the back. It's a floating cape, and you just plug it in like that, and there you go. There's the cape. You can take the cape off. All you have to do is pop the head. There he goes. Take the cape off, and let's go ahead and take a look at that alternate head sculpt real fast, and it just pops on, and look at that. That looks good too. That is a fantastic Magnus. But looking down at the torso and his shoulders, they do rotate 360. They go out this far. The elbows are double hinged, but because of the armor, that's about as much bend as you're going to get. He does come with these magic, magnetism hands, I guess. He does come with some alternate hands. They're easy to just pull off. Put in one of your fisted hands, and there you go. And they look great. And they're hinged up and down or side to side, whichever way you want to look at it. I'm looking down at the torso. He does have a ab hinge or an ab crunch, whichever you want to call it. And unlike Wolverine, he's not loose. It clicks at each detent, which is nice. Of course, moving down to the waist, it rotates 360. Looking at his legs, they go out this far. So we're used to this with Marvel Legends. Of course, there's a thigh swivel on both sides. There's the line. Of course, if you use it, it kind of breaks the facade, but that's okay. Looking at his knees, they are both double hinged. And then looking down at the boots, they rotate at the top of the boot. Looking down at the foot, it hinges down, hinges up, and a forward facing pin or rocker. Next up is Gladiator. On the back there's a short bio that says the leader of the Imperial Guard. Gladiator shoots heat beams from his eyes and commands his forces with formidable strength. Out of the box, he is a chunky figure. I like chunky figures. The only hindrance is with that chunkiness comes a little bit of a lack of articulation, or the arms won't go all the way down. He looks like he's constantly, you know, his chest is constantly busting out. Like he's like, oh, look at me, I'm a gladiator, I can take anybody on. Okay, that head sculpt is a pretty good one. I do have some. The mohawk is not a cast plastic. It's actually glued into his head. So if you can see right there, I got just a little bit of glue residue, but it looks great. I do like the blue highlights. It's very comic book looking, but that's a pretty good head sculpt. I like that on the Gladiator. The cape is just like Magneto's. It pegs in the back. I'm gonna go ahead and pop his head real quick just to get that cape out of the way. And speaking of the cape real quick, it is nothing but a traffic cone. It doesn't move, it doesn't do anything, and it kind of looks like Doctor Strange's cape. So I guess you could use it as a custom maybe, I don't know. But looking at that head sculpt, that is a pretty good head sculpt. Of course, he's on a ball hinge, so he gets some great looking up because he can fly. And of course, you can bury his head all the way. With that being said, I do have quite a few paint defects on this character. There's some red there from the cape. There's some more glue. This character kind of didn't pass the quality control test, but you know, it is what it is. It was a $20 figure at the time. I didn't pay $20 for it. But I like the emblem on his chest. Looking at his arms, they do rotate 360. They go out to about right there. Of course, we've got the bicep swivel, double hinge at the elbows, both sides. Both have fisted hands, and they either hinge up and down or side to side, however you want to look at it. He does have a crunch, and you can see daylight between them. So that kind of bothers me just a little bit. But he does have very strong detents, so he can lean back this far, and he crunches this far forward. Does have a waist swivel for 360 down to his legs. That's some of the best articulation at the thighs we've seen, or the hips. Of course, he does have the thigh swivel, and mine is really good Lord, I'm gonna have to use behind the camera strength. Those swivels were really tight. But you can see the paintwork there for the boots is just a little bit sloppy. This figure's kind of sloppy to me. Like, I'm not that excited about it. But getting down to either the top of the boots or the middle of the shin, it does have a split for rotation. The foot is on a hinge, hinges back, hinges forward that much, and is on a forward facing pin for rocker. Next on the list is Sabertooth, and this is the one I'm really excited to have in my collection. He's one of the reasons I wanted this wave. But on the back there is a slight bio that says, a skilled assassin armed with sharp beast-like fangs and claws. Sabertooth is a paid mercenary of evil. Wow, guys, what can I say? This figure has not disappointed me so far. Just getting it out of the package, it's a chunky piece of plastic. It's highly detailed. It is the epitome of a Sabertooth action figure. He looks great. The paint, weathering, everything looks great on this figure. He does have a little bit of some paint mishaps right there on his chest, but other than that, this is a great looking figure. And I didn't know this, but you can actually take the neck piece off if you so choose, but that's kind of iconic to this character, so I'll be leaving it on. But it just pegs in the back. Looking at articulation, and once again, that head sculpt. Oh, he can look up, look down, and of course 360 with the Exorcist. Looking at the arms, they rotate 360. They go out this far. Of course, we've got our bicep swivel and double hinged elbows. You get pretty good bend. The claws are actually a hard plastic, so when you go to move the hands back to put them, you know, they hinge them up or hinge them down or side to side, whichever way you decide that is. They kind of dig into your thumb. It hurts just a little bit. But he does have a torso hinge, or an ab crunch, sorry, and you can see daylight through it one more time, but that's okay. I do like, speaking back to his arms, he does have that little piece that comes off to the side there, and I do have a little bit of some paint defect right there, but at least it's on the back of his arms. Looking at the torso again, rotates 360. Looking down at his legs, he gets pretty good articulation right there at the hips. We've got the, of course, thigh swivel, and mine is really Gladiator strength tight. There we go. Once again, I got some paint defects there on the thigh, but it's okay. We've got the tiger stripes on the side. That looks really good. The brown is a fantastic brown. It's not like, it's almost kind of like a reddish brown, but it's perfect. I mean, it goes right with the 90s Sabertooth. Double hinge knee at the top of the boot, or middle, whatever this is called, shin cut, rotates 360. Looking at his feet, does have a hinge, hinges back, hinges forward, and there is a forward facing pin for rocker. Next up is number 5 in the series, and it is Storm. On the back there's a short bio that says, an affinity for magical elements make Aurora Monroe the mistress of weather manipulation, Storm. And here she is, guys, and this is a nice action figure. I'm just not very excited about it. It's kind of very basic. It's a female body with a black punker rock kind of outfit, but the face sculpt is pretty. The mohawk, just like on Gladiator, is glued in, so I think I have a little bit of some glue aspects, but she comes with those weird little lightning things that we've seen several times with the Storm characters, but they look good with her. Up close, that face sculpt is nice. They did very well with outlining her eyes with the black eyeliner. The smirk on her face is kind of nice. I like that cocky look. The earrings look really good. As you can see, the mohawk is glued in place, so it looks a little weird on that side, but it looks great on this side. And of course, they did a little bit of a gray wash, and there's a gray tip on there on mine. It almost looks like it was cast in gray and painted white, but I think it was cast in white and painted with a gray wash. But with that, the head does look up great. It's on a ball hinge, looks down, of course, Exorcist 360. The jacket looks really good. Looking at the arms, they do rotate 360. They bend at the elbows just a little bit more than 90 degrees. The hands are removable, and they do hinge up, hinge down. Mine's got a little bit of some warpage there on that hand, and just a little bit on this hand, so I'll probably take a little heat to her. Instead of having an ab crunch or a waist swivel, it's right under her chest there, and it does kind of hinge a little bit, not too much, and it doesn't really rotate 360 just the way it's designed, but you do get a little bit of movement there if you want to put her off at an angle. The belt floats, so it kind of gets in the way every now and then, like it'll stick in places, but it's nice that it floats, because when you put her in different poses, you can kind of push the belt down, fix it where you need to. Other than that, I do have a little bit of a paint defect there, but nothing big. Looking at her legs, she has some of the best movement in the legs we've seen so far, and as always, she does have the thigh swivel, rotates, double knees, goes up pretty good. The boots, unlike some of the other figures we've been taking a look at in this wave, does not rotate. The only rotation you have is right there at the thigh. And then looking down at the end of it, she has a hinge, hinges down, hinges up, and a forward facing pin for rocker. Next on the list is Multiple Man. On the back is a short bio. Not to be duped by duplication, Jamie Madrox uses the ability to clone himself to assign liaisons to travel the world and acquire new skill sets. And here he is, guys. This is actually a really cool figure. I don't know much about Multiple Man. I don't even remember him in the cartoon, but he is a little bit of reuse. As you can tell, that trench coat is the same one they used for Gambit, both in the Caliban wave and the newest retro Gambit. But he does come with accessories, 2 different alternate heads. Okay, up close, he looks great. Some good detail. The X on the forehead's painted very nicely. He's a cool looking figure, even though I don't know much about him. That's what's cool about some of these. Sometimes you just see the action figure and you're like, you know what? That's a cool figure. I'm going to get it. And that's kind of how I feel about this. I really only purchased it for the Apocalypse Build-A-Figure, but now that I have it in hand, I'm really happy to have just another X-Man to put on the shelf. With that being said, he is on a ball hinge, so he does look up. The collar gets in the way just a little bit, but he gets some great looking down. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and pop that head off, put on one of the alternate heads. This one is him, I think, looking a little bit more relaxed, and it doesn't pop on, but that's a nice looking head sculpt. I like the smirk. It has a lot of personality to it. And then of course, when you take that one off, you can put on this one, and it also does not pop on, but it's him without any of his mask on. So that's a good head sculpt right there. It kind of looks like a young Arnold Schwarzenegger, just a little bit. Use your imagination. But looking at his arms, they do rotate 360. They go up this far. Of course, we got the bicep swivel, pinless joints, a little bit more than 90. The hands are on a ball hinge, and of course they hinge up and down or side to side, whichever way you're facing him. He does have a ab crunch, and it crunches this far forward, and he does crunch just a little bit back. So that's nice. And then at the waist, of course, you do have 360 swivel moving down to the legs. The jacket is a little bit of a hindrance for him when you try to pose him just a little bit, because it's just hard enough plastic to want to push the legs back in. But he does go out that far. Of course, he's got a thigh swivel both sides, and then of course double knees. Good bend right there. Of course, at the top of the boot or the shin, there is a swivel right there. Looking at the foot, it does have a hinge, hinges down, hinges up, and has a forward-facing pin for rocker. Okay, the next one in this series, the last one actually in this series, is Cylod. On the back there's a bio that says Betsy Braddock adopts the identity Cylod, combining mastery of the martial arts with enhanced abilities in telekinesis and telepathy. Oh my goodness, this figure was a surprise figure for me. I did not realize that I was going to like her as much as I did. I had the original back in the early 90s, and she was a cool figure then. This one does not disappoint. The accessories are great. Of course, she gets that nice effect right here, the one on her face. The sword, it's all a translucent pink plastic. Okay, look at that face sculpt. That is amazing. I like the accessory that she comes with, that facial effect to show her powers. The other accessory she comes with is, of course, the sword. That is so cool, and this just pulls right off in case you just wanted a pink translucent sword. I mean, who doesn't? And then, of course, on this hand, you've got like her blast effect. That looks really, really cool. But let's go ahead and take this effect off, and there is that beautiful face. She is so pretty. That's a nice looking figure. I do have a little bit of a paint defect right there underneath her left eye, but looking at that hair, it's like a dark purple. And articulation wise, you're not going to get much out of the head movement because of the hair. We're used to this with long haired females, but she does look up nicely for having that long hair. It is kind of a soft plastic. Of course, she can look down a whole heck of a lot. There we go. Yeah. And then she cannot, well, you can exercise it. She can do a 360. Sorry, I took her off camera. But yeah, you can exercise her. She does do 360. I don't know why anybody would do that, but I just like to show the full range of articulation. Her arms do rotate 360. They go up this far. Of course, with the female characters, we do not have a bicep swivel. Looking at the elbows, that's some good bend right there, but it's actually painted in a metallic purple. Looking at her hands, you had the usual up and down or side to side, however you want to look at it. And I don't know if the camera is capturing, but look at that paint. It's like a metallic, light bluish purple. It's got some glitter or something in there. That looks great. But she doesn't have a waist swivel, of course. It's right underneath her chest once again. And she doesn't go, well, she does. She goes 360. Once again, I don't know why you would do that. I'm just showing you a full range of motion. The sash is nice. I'm not sure if it goes on this side or if it goes on the other side. I think you can do whichever way you want to, but I prefer to have it like this. It tends to lay a little bit better. And then, of course, looking at her legs, to be a martial artist, that's not a lot of range of motion to put her in some martial arts moves. Of course, we've got the thigh swivel. And then look at the back right there. There's the serial number right there on the skin. It would have been nice to put that like on the bottom of the foot or something. But you do have double hinge right there at the knees. And of course, we've got our pin for hinge down, hinge up, and forward facing pin for rocker. Okay guys, the last unofficial character of the Apocalypse Wave is Archangel. On the back there's a short bio. Forever racked with internal conflict and dark urges, Archangel nonetheless strives to be a hero, saving the world from grim forces of evil with the aid of his impressive metallic wings. Here he is guys, out of the package. This is an impressive figure, but it's also one that I found a little bit frustrating. Some of the quality control issues with the paint, the plastic being a little bit chipped or worn. But it's a cool figure. I like the paint scheme on it. It really does remind me of the 90s cartoon. So first off, that face sculpt is nice. They did paint the face very well, but you can see the chest is a little, there's some paint defects there. There's some issues around the neck that I'm seeing. But for the purposes of this, the wings are massive. So I'm going to go ahead and take those off of his back so I can show you. They actually peg in. This piece is separate, but once you get it in his back, it's almost impossible to get it out. I mean, it is in there. Once you put it in, it's pretty much in. So at least the wings peg right here. But the wings are nice. They're a nice metallic color. They're absolutely beautiful, actually. They do swivel where you can put them like this a little bit on the figure. It's very nice. They will actually wrap around the figure a little bit. And that's on both. So here's the face sculpt again, and for accessories, he did come with 3 different face sculpts. Here's the good version, well, the good guy version. His eyes look a little bugged out to the side, but there is some nice weathering on the hair. I mean, that looks very nice. The blue skin's pretty. And then looking at this version is his like dark version, like when he has his bad thoughts or evil diabolical thoughts. It looks really cool right there. And then last but not least is his 4 horsemen look, and that's really cool as well. I think this was from the comic books. I don't remember seeing this in the cartoon, but the paint quality is pretty good on this. But looking back at him, his head is on a ball hinge, so you do get a fantastic look up. So if you want to put him in a flight position, it does look down, of course 360. Looking at the arms, they rotate 360. Of course they have detents, they pop at each interval, and then the shoulders go up this far. There is a bicep swivel and then double hinged elbows, and of course with the fist they either go up and down or side to side. He does have a torso or ab crunch, and mine's actually kind of loose again, just like the Wolverine, but there's not that much daylight showing, so that's nice. Then of course looking at the torso, or sorry, the waist, you can rotate it 360. Looking at his legs, that's as far out as they're going to get, and just with quality control, you can see the paint's kind of messed up right there at the top of his hip. He does of course have the thigh swivel, but with those lines you don't really want to break that. It hurts the aesthetic of the figure. Of course we've got double knees, and then of course at the top of the boot or the shin split, it does rotate 360. There is a hinge at the bottom for hinge down, hinge up, and a forward-facing pin for rocker. Wow. Wow. That is all I can say. Wow. This figure, wow. Has to be, hands down, one of the best Marvel Legends Build-A-Figures we've ever received. Apocalypse. That paint is fantastic. Once you get it all put together, this figure is absolutely worth the price you pay to build him. He is fantastic. Wow, guys, look at that head sculpt. That is amazing. The blue that just traces out his lips, his teeth, the eyes, the red in the eyes, that looks great. Looking at the top and around the sides, the paint looks fantastic. I'm not having many quality control issues right there. The collar does come off. It's just pegged in on the sides, right there on top. And then of course, I mean, wow, look at that metallic blue with the almost metallic black, grayish black paint on the side there. That is great. The shoulders are actually hinged in at the top, so you're not going to be able to get 360 rotation, but you do get some pretty good up, and then of course out straight. That's as far up as you're going to get on both sides. The elbows, we've seen this with a lot of big figures, they don't bend that great. So this may be some of the drawbacks of this figure, but just the paintwork, the chunkiness, it's great. I mean, I like this figure. The hands also hinge up or down or side to side and rotate 360. You've got the cords right there. They look great. They plug in the front on the arms and in the back right there. You do have a ab crunch, and it does click with each detent, so he's able to bend that far. He can bend back just a little bit. That's really cool. His belt does float, but you don't want to go too far. You're not going to get that much rotation. There is a waist swivel, but you don't want to go too far because I'm afraid you might rip that logo. But his legs, look at that. He's got some pretty good kick to the side. Of course, he's got the thigh rotation, 360. Double hinge knees, so they do go out that far. This right here floats above the ankle, and the ankle has some crazy articulation because it's a ball hinge. It's not your normal just up and down, forward, back. And I think you can see it right there. So you get some crazy articulation there in the ankles, and I mean, that just looks so cool. Look at the detail on those. And of course, once you get done posing it, you just put those back since they float. And let me go ahead and show you the claw that comes with Archangel. And all you have to do is pop off a hand. You take off this gray thing, remove the cord with a tube, take the claw, and it's actually, you can see that the arm is like a triangle slot almost. There's a triangle slot here. You just kind of play with it a little bit, see if it fits. It does fit on snug. It doesn't pop, but it does fit snugly. You plug the cord right there in the back, and there you go. There's one of the accessories for Apocalypse, the claw, and it does go in and out so that you can grab your figures. How cool is that? I mean, this is a fantastic Build-A-Figure. This concludes my review of the Build-A-Figure Apocalypse Wave. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I know it ran a little bit long, but I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please like, subscribe, comment. Make sure you follow me on Instagram at Beyond the Force. There's a link in the description below. As always, I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and may the Force be with you.